right, people are going to be asking me about this all the time, so let's just get it done. A trailer reaction, a thing that... Well, I was about to say the only time I've ever done it before was the Demon Souls remake, but then I remembered we did an entire podcast that was us watching, like, PAX, I guess, and all of its trailers. Yeah. But yeah, finally, I guess we're going to get some gameplay for Elden Ring, the next game from FromSoftware, the creators of Dark Souls and all that.
Peggy 16.
That is a hairy horse. This is supposed to be the open world style. Maybe Souls-like still?
The tarnished will soon return, guided by grace once lost. The Golden Order is broken to its core.
Alright, so we have a fallen fantasy society. Again, looks like an Yggdrasil almost.
Foul tarnished.
What was that face?
Touch of the Elden Ring.
There's like a weird face on the floor.
Golden by the flame of ambition. Someone must extinguish thy flame.
Oh, he's nasty looking.
They will fight, and they will die in an unending curse.
Hey! Always +1 for werewolf. Oh, -1 for dragon. We're back at neutral. You can't use lightning, that's supposed to be your weakness. You're cheating.
Or Lord.
Okay, the wolf knight looks fucking awesome.
Well, a lowly tarnished, playing as a lord. I command thee now.
People definitely have growths on them. At first I thought it was a horns, but it might be roots. Maybe a riff on the tree zombies we had in Dark Souls 3 in that one underground area. Ooh.
Brandish the Elden Ring. For all of us.
It's a beautiful world, that's for sure. And it looks like the gameplay might be closer to being between, let's see, the gameplay looks like it might be closer to being between Bloodborne and Dark Souls and a little less Sekiro maybe. And I didn't love Sekiro. I don't think it's a bad game or anything, but I didn't love that style. It was just a little too fast and kind of infuriating. Although there's some really memorable cool stuff like the ape and stuff like that. Yeah, this guy is the first guy I saw had growths on him and I was trying to figure that out, but it does look like horns on him. Like that horrifying thing when certain creatures have like a horn or a tooth that if it's not worn down enough, it can like grow into their own brain or some shit. We saw some, where's that floor? Hello. Yeah, that floor is definitely a weird face skull thing. Got like tentacle-like roots coming out from under it, but it's like this flap. It's got the nose and these eye slits and all that. I like that we have another dark fantasy setting, but it's not reminiscent directly of Dark Souls. It is a different feeling setting. And there's some really cool visuals going on here. So I'm interested to see how that happens. And it looks like the gameplay will be somewhere between familiar and different. My biggest concern from day one is kind of reinforced here a bit, which is the fact that it's just a really big open area, as you can see on this. Like, that looks like a playable map right there. And I'm just worried that the Dark Souls level design will suffer. Like, I see these big bad bosses that are probably all neat, cool shit. But looking at this, and I'm like, it's pretty. I don't really want to roam around like a Ubisoft game, though. Like, I really specifically like Dark Souls and FromSoftware games in general. Like, this generation of them ever since Demon's Souls. In part because of their incredible pacing. They don't waste your time. They don't really repeat encounters. And while the levels aren't completely linear, they're really concise and dense. And every individual part of the environment is easily memorized and so on. Like I did a whole thing on this channel where I drew Dark Souls 1 from memory, like the map. And the idea wasn't necessarily that I had to be like perfect or that the map had to be like incredible or anything, but it was just a demonstration of the idea that there are gameplay spaces in video games that are so burned into your brain, either because of ulterior things or because it's just so memorable in its design that you can just recreate it on a whim. Like, I don't think you can like even and it's not even just the scale. Like, a good comparison, I think, would be the fact that if you talk about like a city, I think most people would struggle to make a very good map of a Assassin's Creed city in many, like, draw the city from Assassin's Creed Unity from memory. But a lot of people that played Pathologic, which is also a city, could probably draw a shocking amount of that city accurately. At least like all the landmark buildings that every NPC is in. They might get like the actual city grid a little fudged in between those spots, but like you'd be impressed by how well they draw that. And that's partly because the levels was designed in a really memorable way, but also you were kind of tested on your ability to navigate and understand that environment. And so I don't want filler. And that's the concern I see when I see an image like this, is that Dark Souls and Bloodborne and Demon's Souls and Sekiro are so dense and so devoid of filler. And it's all about, like, here's a specific environment that has specific encounters in it. And those encounters are designed around that environment. The two are placed there in tandem. The environment informs the encounters, and the encounters accentuate the environment, and that all falls apart the moment you play like the Chalice dungeons in Bloodborne, where it's just bad because it's just a bunch of random modules of crap full of random enemies, and you're like, oh right, like the mechanics of Soulsborne is here still, so like the actual moment-to-moment gameplay is still okay because of that, but you really see how much the level design itself and the enemy encounter design is kind of mandatory to have a proper experience. So that's my worry when I see this image specifically, and just the fact that when this game was first announced, it was announced as being an open world. Will they do something really interesting, cool stuff with that? I hope so. I mean, they've not done poorly for me yet in any of their last 6 games is this generation, basically. Yeah. I remember encountering some of their previous games without the context of FromSoftware before Demon's Souls, and I didn't love them. Like, I played the turn-based JRPG and I didn't really like it very much. Maybe I'd have a different opinion now or something if this is a brighter image, my bad. That tree is interesting. If they make the map circular around that tree, then that can be a central landmark that helps you orient yourself of where you are, which is definitely an idea. Although it's also one I have played a few games that have a giant tree in the middle. I don't really care to try to analyze the lore right now, but it definitely sounds like there's some kind of fallen society and some kind of rot is spreading. It's not called that this time, but they just tend to have a word for the new bad thing. The tarnish, the hollowing, that's a through line that we're kind of used to. I'm curious to see how George R. R. Martin's writing plays out in here. That'll be interesting. There's a little baghead dude over here. It's definitely a mix of things I'm very familiar with and not very familiar with. Ooh, gnarly. I just now noticed that these are like little skeletons here. This is like a a building made of bodies, it appears. I was obviously kind of fixated on the sight line here. There's a glowing glyph here, and then it's crumbled, but everything looks like it's floating anyway. Let's see, there's some dragons up there. Always the dragons. This guy just looks like a Dark Souls 3 dude. Plucked straight out of that. Doesn't even look out of place. This stuff, and this isn't, it's not quite the same thing, but it takes me back to one of the most iconic visuals of all of Bloodborne. It was that giant werewolf burning on a pyre, which was just an incredible opener for that game. It'd be cool to see more werewolves in FromSoftware games because they don't show up much. You would think a lot of people know what werewolves are, but they don't actually show up in gaming all that often, honestly. Vampires seem more common in most stuff. For a second there, I thought this was basalt columns. It's like, it's so close. It's like leaning on the same visual aesthetic. Like it exists in the game for basically the same reason, but it's too noisy and weird. Okay, so I thought this was like a turtle, but it looks like it's a golem. It looks like it's just rock. And it looks like it's a building that's walking around with a bell. Oh, these guys are nasty. They've got stuff stabbed into their backs. Oh yeah, they're impaled and they're dragging this wagon around. The trailer comes at you so fast you can't internalize all of it on the first watch. What a nasty setting. Okay, we got a lot of limbs hanging. It comes at you so quickly that I would at first glance probably thought it was roots again. Beautiful environments. Here's where there's a decent chance for the Dark Souls level design we hope for to show up, is the fact that there are these internal settings. Are these walking around? That's neat. Ooh. Weirdly reminiscent of, was he weirdly reminiscent of the Gaping Demon or Gaping Dragon? I always forget. Yeah, open chest. That was like a similar front slam. That looked like the same skeleton, actually. Like the animation skeleton of the Gaping Dragon. I always forget if he's a dragon or a demon in a name. They both sound right, because it's basically the same word. Actually, there actually are really reminiscent locations in here. I was saying at first that it's not that reminiscent, but like this looks like the Iudex Gundyr fight at the beginning of Dark Souls 3, where it's like a circular shaped thing where there's a cliff on one side, and then you got this big guy that has like monstrous features coming out of him. In that case, he started off as like a regular knight, and then turned into this big beastly thing. With the weird growths people had in that game. Ah. So it looks like weapon arts are making a return. That's the kind of stuff I kind of look forward to. This is if they're going to make an open world, you got to have some actual traversal mechanics that hopefully complement that in some way. Although it looks like it's just at a fixed location, so it may not be a thing you can actively use so much as just a shortcut that shows up in certain spots, but that guy just leaps. And we saw that big blue weapon swing, which looks like a return of Dark Souls 3's weapons arts sort of style. Yeah, definitely had at first glance I saw this guy and like, oh, it's just a helmet. But then he actually howled. Oh yeah, yeah, his mouth moves. That is not a helmet. That is actually a wolf. Neat. At first I thought, oh, there's just a wolf knight. Okay, that's cool. Then I think we saw him later on, and he's like 30 feet tall or some shit. So that's a boss fight. Hopefully the dragon fight's good. They can be a mixed bag. Is that the wolf? Oh yeah, that's the wolf. Look at that open. There he is. So this is he's really fucking fast. These are huge sweeping attacks. Ah, mobility. He jumped over the sword. Yep, he jumped. Yep, that's as far as I can remember, Bloodborne didn't have jumping as a mechanic, right? That was just Sekiro. So we're definitely seeing the DNA of all these different things they do, mixing together in different ways.
To be born.
Wow, fuck him.
Well,
Apparently.
a lowly tarnished, playing as a lord. Man,
There's so many details to pick up on. A guy was covered in arms? That thing's so fucking cool. The sky elk or whatever the hell. Alright, we have the usual. We've got somebody that's being guarded that will tell you things you can probably optionally attack. You got a guy that's being driven insane by knowledge. Probably. There's a lot of familiar things. I definitely was like Irithyll. Or, I'm sorry, not Irithyll. Boreal Valley. Just like it was once again going to be a huge cathedral style building to go through, which that's always a good time. I'm sure it'll be a mix of new and old in a bunch of ways, and I'm sure it'll be a good game. It's just questionable whether it'll become like, is this my new favorite FromSoftware game, or is this the one where I'm like, yeah, it was neat. I don't know how much I want to play it more times, but it was pretty good. Maybe one of the best games of the year. But that was the Sekiro thing where it's like, this is probably one of the best games of the year, but I also kind of never want to play it again. We're not done yet. There's another Souls-like type game announced this time. Salt and Sacrifice, the, I guess, sequel to Salt and Sanctuary. There we go. Like, what was the original title? They're so similar that it messed with me. I still entertain the idea that Ska Studio / James Silva's Salt and Sanctuary might still be the best Souls-like ever made. I'm not completely caught up because there's been so fucking many of them, so I haven't played through the entirety of Code Vein or Neo 2 yet, so I'm still behind on some of the things. But I've played a lot of Souls-likes, and they all fall short in certain ways, in frustrating ways. And this is, I think, Salt and Sanctuary is still one of the most consistently good throughout the experience Souls-likes ever made by somebody that's not FromSoftware. So the idea that they're apparently, like, this caught me by surprise. I just found out about this like a few minutes ago when I was about to record the Elden Ring thing, but sequel.
Our sins will catch up with us. Always. I was given a second chance. I spoke the words.
It sounds like there's voice acting this time around, unless this is just trailer stuff.
I drank the Mage Bane. I live now only to hunt mages.
So they still have Metroidvania mechanics, and they still have co-op.
I am a marked inquisitor. There aren't many of us.
But together, we will tame the chaos.
There it goes. Hey, was that another wolf? The characters almost look elven in this game. Next year. I did read because I found out about this game actually because Andrew linked an article about it, and I guess they built it from the ground up this time to be based around co-op, whereas when I did finally get to play the co-op mode with Andrew of the last game, after a long time of hoping to finally test it, we largely found out that it's pretty bad. So hopefully the fact that this one's apparently built from the ground up for a co-op will be a much better experience overall. That does appear to be another werewolf, or maybe a gnoll, I think. But yeah, it looks largely iterative. So no big shakeup here. It is once again an indie side scroller, probably once again made by like 1 to 3 people total. It has that mix of like really good art direction in certain ways, but also like the fact that it's like kind of awkwardly like a bunch of characters that are like, it's like a 2-dimensional drawing with hinges in the character model, and that's how they animate. So it's like it's a compromise that sometimes adds to the experience and sometimes subtracts, because the weird horror creatures can actually look kind of creepier when they're moving weirdly and so on, but it is like a pretty limited way of animating it. Looks like this trailer looks pretty blurry, unfortunately, for what we're looking at. But the last game was pretty mechanically sound, and it also had the benefit of being a Souls-like that was a proper Metroidvania, in that you would collect a series of powers that actually let you navigate the world, so you then would backtrack and do that, which is a thing that a decent number of Souls-like kind of try, and Dark Souls itself was reminiscent of a Metroidvania, but only in the way that like various doors would get unlocked from behind or via special keys, and then you'd suddenly have new ways of navigating the environment. But it was never really ability based. But I definitely saw some stuff going on here. Like I remember you could like invert gravity and shit like that in the last game in certain places, and this time around it looked like I at least saw a grappling hook being used on a ledge at some point. But yeah, it's a little hard to draw on this. It's there's not necessarily a huge amount of new going on. It does seem to be like a more or less a straightforward sort of sequel, like from Dark Souls 1 to Dark Souls 2, where there's going to be some mechanical differences and some. There you go. That's definitely a grappling hook going on to that. So that's a traversal mechanic being added. If I were to guess, I would guess you don't start off with it. You have to go find it later, and then suddenly you can traverse the environment differently, because that kind of stuff was how a lot of your way of getting around in the previous game was kind of handled, at least as far as I can remember. I played Salt and Sanctuary multiple times through, but it's been a while now. But yeah, there we go. At least 2 similar things to look forward to. Hope it's all fucking great. Hope every misgiving or concern I have is unfounded and all that. People like don't always get that. When I talked about Demon's Souls, people are like, you just want to hate it, and it's like, no. Why would I ever want a game to be bad? Being worried is not the same thing as wanting something to be bad. That's obviously not the case. It's just you see a thing coming up and you're like, I don't know, man. It's one of those things where you just you want to trust the developer that has consistently made good things that you like, but you also are worried when they do a thing that sounds contrary to why you like their games. But hey, fucking Supergiant Games made a sports game that I think is one of the most interesting games ever made in Pyre. So sometimes weird choices can be a cool surprise. I just hope, and it's probably the case, but I just hope that FromSoftware, for example, is making an open world game because it's something akin to Breath of the Wild, where they had really cool ideas of how to make an open world game compelling, as opposed to just making an open world game because they're popular. And I'm hoping that's how it went, because like Breath of the Wild is one of my favorite open world games ever made. It probably is my favorite open world game ever made because of the fact that it was a game that it fostered and encouraged and then rewarded curiosity in the player. And so you were driven by your natural curiosity to investigate the surroundings and go check things out and so on. And so that kind of guided the whole experience. Whereas most open world games just give you a fucking laundry list of repetitive tasks to do and then just ask you to go walk over to them over and over again in what is largely a pointless open world of just kind of clutter and landscape. It's just an expanse of largely non-interactive stuff that's mostly just between all of your tasks. So like, I don't really want an Assassin's Creed or a Horizon Zero Dawn or a Ghost of Tsushima. And so I just hope that's not what Elden Ring is, because it's not why I play Dark Souls. I kind of see it specifically as a breath of fresh air from a lot of that stuff. Like there was for me, there was like a divergence in 2011 between 2 games that came out like a month apart from each other that are kind of big deals, Dark Souls and Skyrim, and I am firmly into Camp Dark Souls. Not because there's any real reason to like pick a tribe and like, I like this thing, so the other thing's bad or whatever. It's not about the tribalism or whatever. It's just the fact that there is such a divergence in the design philosophy between those two types of games. And so seeing the people that make Dark Souls then make something that seems more akin to Skyrim just makes me sure hope that they have a really good idea about why they want to do that. Because, yeah, if I don't like the game, it's going to be a much longer wait until the next one. I don't know. See you guys next time.